Hey everybody, it's Mike DeLuna here, and thank you so much for joining us today. And I have a special guest, and your name is?
Sandra Green.
And Sandra Green is going to tell her testimony, and it's going to be so impactful. Make sure you like this and share it, and don't forget to follow us and subscribe on YouTube. So we're going to let Sandra go ahead and dive in. And the first question that we're going to ask is, so Sandra, tell us what was your biggest challenge, or just tell us your story. And I'm going to keep track of time and everything so we can ask you a couple more questions about your testimony. So if you want to start by just telling us what happened.
Well, it all started when I had some back problems, and I went to a doctor and got prescribed some pain pills, and of course that became an issue. And then I had been introduced to some other things. And so my husband at the time had two, and we started having trials and ended up divorcing and had two small children. And in the midst, later, I had two more children, and I would do good for a little while, and then it would slack. I'd get back in the middle of doing things I shouldn't have been. And so me and my first husband were co-parenting really well, and we were really close. And he was doing bad again. And so at one point, I ended up losing my younger two's dad to suicide. And a month and a half later, I lost my other two's dad to suicide. And you would have thought that I would have changed and that would have woke me up, and it didn't. And so I lived that life for a few years longer. And then I hit rock bottom. And I always had wanted to change and wanted to do better, but I didn't know how. I didn't think I was strong enough. And when I was losing everything, I felt like I didn't know which way to turn. So I put myself in a outpatient center, and I started going to counseling. And as I started going to counseling, I found out that my counselor was a pastor. And he reached out to me, and I started going to his church, and I asked God to come into my life, and I started seeing changes and started really, really looking up. And in 6 months, I had a new house, I had new furniture, it was just amazing the things that were happening in my life. And
Wow. So let me ask you this. So going through that, when you were in the thick of the challenge, when you were, like you said, you hit rock bottom. So when you hit rock bottom, tell us, like, what did that feel like? What were you experiencing?
I didn't think that I had anywhere to go. My parents, everybody had been trying so hard to help me and make me realize that I needed to do better for my life for so long that, I was ashamed to go to them, and I just didn't know what to do or where to turn. And so, like I said, I went and I talked to this counselor and turned my life over to God, and that's whenever I really, really started doing better.
So that kind of leads to my next question is what helped you through that the most? Like you said, you met a counselor that was a pastor.
Mm-hmm.
Like what started happening you started seeing a change and you started seeing your life improve?
I was happy. Of course, relationships were being rebuilt with people. They were trusting that I was doing the things that I was doing. The one thing that I would tell somebody is a lot of people question, well, they want to do it for somebody else. They want to change for their kids, or they want to change for something else. What I learned is you have to change for you. You have to make you better, because as you make you better, in the long run, everybody else around you will benefit from it. You can't just, if you only do it for your kids, or you only do it for this particular reason or trial that you're going through at that moment, what if those kids grow up and they move out? And okay, well, now what's going on? You changed your life for that. So now what's going to happen? Are you going to go backwards? But if you change it for you, then you'll always be on that strong road and doing right, and just God will continue to fulfill everything or bless you with.
Yeah. Wow. That's powerful. So if, let me ask you this next question. So what was the biggest lesson that you felt like you learned going through all of that? Like from starting off with, might I add, it was prescription pills. So, a lot of people think it's safe, and they're healthy for you or whatnot because a doctor or someone prescribed it. So it started with that. So what would you say, like, your biggest lesson was out of everything that you went through?
Don't always think that it's always good or you're doing right. My biggest lesson is always know that you're strong enough, I guess. Is know that you're worth it. And that you can turn your life around. It doesn't matter where you are in life or what you're doing. It can be turned around. Nothing is that bad to where you cannot turn your life around.
Wow, that's powerful. And so what if someone is watching and they're dealing with an addiction, whether it's gambling, whether it's substance abuse, whether it's, you name it. There's so many different things that people can be addicted to, and they feel stuck and they feel like they can't get out of it. What advice would you give somebody that's watching, that's in the midst of that addiction? Like, what would you tell them?
My absolute first advice would be get on your knees and pray. Get on your knees and ask God to take it away. Because even after I had overcome it, I remember like a 6-month mark of having nightmares and having dreams. And I literally walked around my backyard praying to God, please take it away. No more dreams, no more anything, no more people just popping up in my life trying to persuade me. And He wholeheartedly 100% took that all out of my life. And that would be my absolute. My second would be, if you don't feel comfortable with that, reach out to somebody like myself that's been through it and who will be a mentor or a counselor, or there's a lot of places that you can go to for help.
Yeah. And I can tell that the story still sits with you. Like it's something that you've lived, and you're here to tell the story. And off camera, you and I were kind of talking about it a little bit about, like, you're just grateful and thankful that you made it through everything you made it through. But there's a lot of people that struggle with addiction and I know because I have some of my family, have dealt with things, and, the withdrawals and things like that has scared them from like wanting to change. But were you always a believer, or like when did you have that moment with God where you're like, okay, I know that this is real, and I know that I have to stop doing this, and I have to live a better life? Like, was there anything that happened like in your breaking point where it just made you like realize you have to change?
I was always a believer. I believed, but there was a point that I didn't think, like, I didn't realize God would forgive me and be there for me. And there was a point, and it was when I was walking around that backyard and I asked Him to take it away, because a lot of people that I've talked to struggle with still 10, 12 years down the road. They struggle with having to battle it every day. And I can say with wholeheartedly, I don't.
Wow.
And it's been many, many years, but I don't. And people ask me, like, how? And I truly believe it's because God in that backyard answered my prayers and broke me down and took all of it away from me.
Man, that is crazy. So I heard your testimony when we had a women's conference here at church, and it just touched me so much, because we all deal with something. And when you see people, like, you don't always know what their story is. You're just like, you see them when they're in church, you see them when they're professionals or whatnot. But man, there's a lot of people out there that are struggling with something. And when I heard her testimony, I just had to have more people hear it, because it's so powerful. And within 15 minutes, we can't tell it all. And I know there's a lot that you probably, could get deeper into detail. But I just wanted to touch on the major things and the lessons that you learned and things like that. And really what I love about Sandra, she said, if you're dealing with it, reach out to somebody, including herself. So I know you're on social media, but we'll add some more things in the post where people can find you, because the hope is that there's somebody that is out there struggling, that doesn't think people understand, but you do.
Absolutely.
Like you lived it, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I did a testimony myself last week, and every one of these testimonies are going to be something that somebody lived through, that somebody else is watching, and they're probably right there in the middle of that point where they've had enough. They're just like, I'm so done, I want to change, but they don't know how. And that's the point of this channel, is to help people see that there is someone that understands what you're going through. So go ahead and close it. Give us some final thoughts, Sandra. Like, again, if somebody's watching, if somebody doesn't, like you've dealt with like suicide, which is strong. Like, you know, maybe somebody's watching is just like, don't want to live anymore. Like, is there anything you'd like to share with anybody? This just gives them a little encouragement or hope.
Nothing's worth that. Nothing's worth ever thinking those thoughts. And I truly mean it when I say reach out to me, because no one understands like someone that's been there and has been there for their kids through everything and had to father or, explain to them things that happened in their life. So I would just say, get help, reach out, know your worth it.
I love it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to tag Sandra on this post. And so you'll see her Facebook information on this post, on this video today. And all you need to do is click on her tag, and then you can message her or, friend her on social media. And then once that happens, she can give out her phone number and things like that. But you heard what she said. If you're struggling with it, reach out to her, because she's been there, done that, and she is an overcomer. And a lot of us on this podcast, whether you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, they're overcomers also. So I appreciate you, Sandra, for sharing your story. I know sometimes it's not easy to be transparent like you are, but somebody needs to hear it, and I think you've really touched some people out there. So if you're watching like this, share it, comment, encourage Sandra. We all can use it, but the story is powerful in itself. But anyway, make sure you like it and share it, and we appreciate our future guests too. So thanks for sharing, Sandra, and thank y'all for watching.